No, it's
that's
hell.
stuff that mornings are made of. What do they say? You know what the commercial say? The best part of waking up
That's
is hearing
part
what's
of
in your
waking
cup.
up.
Well, it's funny that
Folgers
it's
in
talking
your
about
cup.
we're having something for Jesus that has to do with
Psst.
waking up in the morning on Friday night.
Yeah.
On Friday night. So I'd love to tag into this and try to minister as quickly as I can here.
Yeah,
Uh,
because there ain't a lot of
I was searching for a title. I'll just call it the Coffee House. I'll just call this title the Coffee House because I'm saying it here. So I don't
Chris.
know what else to
Give him
call it.
some of that coffee
But I wanted
mix.
to talk about the battlefield. The battlefield is really not confined to the walls of a church edifice. The battle is not a geographical location, but the battlefield is a spiritual location. The human soul is the battlefield. So when we say, I'm going to stay on the battlefield for my Lord, that means you're going to be on the battlefield regardless. So don't trip when the storms come. Don't trip when the trials and tribulations come. You're on the battlefield. But the decision is, who are you on the battlefield for? Because we were always on the battlefield. It wasn't always for my Lord, but we were always on the battlefield. Uh,
So he's a genius.
the thing about the battlefield, whether you want to be on it or not, you're there. And because God placed eternity in the human heart, it is now impossible to exist both in this life and the next without getting to know Him. See, God is bigger than our history. That's why you have to lift Him up. That's why you have to lift the Savior up. I know it was 2,000 plus years ago, but still, He speaks from eternity. And He calls us to do something. Calls us to do something. Calls us to do three things. He calls us to love Him with everything that we are. He calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves. And with that, He tells us later to go into the world and make disciples. Meaning there are disciples you are responsible for making. There are disciples I am responsible for making that will probably never set foot in this building. See, waiting in a line to preach, waiting in a line to teach in a pecking order will not cause you to make disciples. But sharing the good news wherever you go will make disciples. You have a book being written in heaven right now. Your name is the title of that book. And that book is caught up in the Lamb's book of life. It was slain from the foundation of the world, written in the ink of the blood of Jesus Christ. It's being recorded in heaven right now, and it's documenting your relationship with God, including everything that you say and do. So we have this evil one who's the designated accuser coming into the courthouse, and he wants to take all the little victories that he can, all the little sins that seem insignificant. But the evil one wants to put religious performance ahead of true ministry. See, the evil one wants hoopers, but he doesn't want ministers. The evil one wants a country club, not a church. The evil one wants ministers, not ministers. The evil one has an agenda. That's why we need to stay on the battlefield. See, the battlefield is in a person who gets treated unfairly. The battlefield is in a person who is being tempted in any way for anything. If you look at the Garden of Eden, that story began in warfare. The first question in the Bible was ever asked came from the serpent. He asked the woman, he said, do I understand that you can't eat from any trees in the garden? And Eve knew what to say. Eve said, yes, we may eat from the trees in the garden. It's only about the one in the middle of the garden that we should not eat. The day that we eat from that tree, we will die. That starts off warfare because don't you hear? Because Eve stands for the church. Eve stands for the church. And so what happens here on this battlefield is we have to do some psychological warfare because the world needs you. You don't get called out of the world to stay out of the world. But God sends you back into the world with His message and His power. It's going to take some psychological warfare to get your mind right. It's going to take some spiritual warfare to get your heart right. And it's going to take some full armor of God to get your life right. It's going to take loving your neighbor as yourself to get your reputation right. It's going to take your love for God to get your soul right. See, we're not waiting to be made right in order to preach, but we're preaching now while we don't have it together yet, so that we can share in this ministry and be made right later. I have to ask, what happened to the church? When did protocol trump power? When did leaders forget that the greatest among you should be the least among you? When did church become only about Sunday? Sunday is just the day that we come to worship, and every day the commandment stands. Go out into the world, make disciples. See, we won't make disciples if we don't go. We prove that we are not sent, as a matter of fact, when we don't go. We won't be all God intended for us to be if we don't go. We won't find out how to make disciples if we don't go. The church will have members instead of disciples if we don't go. See, Satan is comfortable with a stationary church if we don't go. Satan feels safe and secure as long as the community is being neglected because we won't go. See, maybe the people in the neighborhood are not coming just for food and clothes. Maybe you need to consider that they're coming to get some hope. They're coming to get some joy. They're coming to get some peace. They're coming to get an encouraging word. Maybe they're coming for something that the world cannot give. Because maybe that is the only thing they have in their lives that the world cannot take away. But we need to go. Lives